Morning guys, welcome back to the Knitting Expat Podcast. This is episode 146. I am coming to you from my home in the south of England, where I live with my husband, our little girl and our two cats. It is Saturday the 2nd of November. How is it November already? I have no idea, but it is. And yeah, it's absolutely pouring it down with rain outside, so if you can hear the rain, I'm sorry about that. We still have the scaffolding up outside our building, so the rain is bouncing off the scaffolding boards, which is why you can probably hear it. I am so done with the builders and everything. It's just driving me bonkers now. It's been far too long. It should have been done ages ago, but anyway. Moving on, my name's Mina. I'm not sure if I said that. You can find me online as Mina Phillip on Ravelry and Knitting Expat on Instagram. Those are the main places where I am. I also design and sell knitting patterns on Ravelry as Knitting Expat Designs. The shop is linked down below. You can also find show notes for this episode below the video in the description box, where I will have everything linked. This is going to be part one, which is mainly focused on like the knitting and all of my other usual podcast content, and then part two will be focused on my spinning, just because there's a lot of spinning this time and I feel like it needs to be its own episode. Otherwise this is going to be super long, and I want to try and keep my actual podcast episodes under an hour where possible. So I have a stack of finished objects. Let me just turn the camera a little bit. There we go. A stack of finished objects and some other bits to share with you today, so we're gonna jump right on in. In terms of what's been alright, so in terms of what's been going on, okay, so in terms of what's been going on with pattern sales lately, last week I think it was, I released the Gardener's Gansey pullover, which is the sweater that I designed for Perry. And if I remember, I will put some photos up on the screen here so you can see what that is. I showed it on the last podcast, episode 145, where I shared about that, but that is now finally finished. It is out and available in the world. You can go ahead and purchase it. It is available as part of my pay what works pricing options, where there's 3 different coupon code options where you can get it for 20, 40 or 60% off the price that I've listed it as, and those options are there for you to use if you feel like you need it. Otherwise, if you feel like you can financially afford to pay full price, then that would be absolutely amazing, because the full price is more representative of how much time and effort and cost it's taken for me to get this pattern out. But I understand that not everyone can necessarily afford that, which is why I offer a flexible pricing structure. In terms of the gift knitting pattern club, the last 2 patterns were supposed to have been out by now, but with my trip to Rhinebeck and since getting back, things have been a little bit hectic. I took a break from publishing those patterns. They are ready to go. I think the next one's going to come out next week, and then the following week will be the last one, so thank you everyone for being patient with that. But you can still purchase the pattern club at the discounted rate until the last pattern's purchased. That's just going to extend until whenever I release the last pattern, and then it will go up to its full, and then it will, I think at the moment there's 3 pricing options for the full club, whereas once the last pattern's released, the cheapest option will be taken off the list of options essentially. So right now you can go get it for a really good price if you wanted to, and all of those patterns are available individually as well at the moment, and those are also offered under the pay what works pricing structure as well. So all sorts of different options price wise for those patterns as well, and they are all really simple, quick gift knits, knit out of 1 or 2 skeins of heavier weight yarn, DK, worsted, bulky, I think, or Aran and bulky. Those were the weights that were used, and yeah, so really quick gift knits, perfect for the upcoming holiday season. Okay, I can't think of anything else that I've published recently that I needed to tell you guys about. I'm probably forgetting something. what I'm wearing at the moment. This is my Not So Little Nugget pullover, which is just a simple top-down raglan, and in the pattern it includes information on how to calculate when and where to make your colour changes if you want to do a colour block version like I have, or if you, it's written as if you're knitting it all in one colour, but then like I said, there's information about how to calculate how long to knit each section in the different colours if you want to do a colour block version. Okay, so let's jump in with finished objects. The first finished object I have isn't actually a knitting finished object, but like a little crafty finished object. So I'd seen a picture of something similar to this on Instagram at some point recently, and I thought I can do that. And I made this to go into Layla's room, and I actually did film a little video on how I did this, so I just need to edit that and put it up on YouTube, so that will take you through a bit more of a step-by-step process of how I did it. So I just created one giant row log type thing on my blending board out of these fibres, and then spun a single. It's all a single ply. You don't have to spin the yarn to make this. You can just use yarn you have in stash. You could use scraps, you could do whatever you want, but because I had a specific colour scheme in mind for Layla's room, obviously with the red, this is what I went with. And then I went through the whole process in the video of how I measured out the yarns, how I attached them onto the hoop, cutting the bottom to make it a bit neater, and then I also used I had some leftover yarn, so I did a little hanging loop thing at the top. And yeah, it's a really cute little room decoration for her. Although I showed it to her when she first saw it, it was after she got home from nursery one evening, and she proclaimed that she only wanted it in red and she didn't want other colours. And I was like, but it goes so well, it's like a colour scheme, it's a gradient. And she was like, no. She didn't seem too enthusiastic about it, so we'll see. If she doesn't like it, then I'll hang it somewhere else in the house, but I quite like it. I think it's quite a cute little decorative piece. I think it'd be a really fun, a really cute idea for like a baby shower if you know the colour scheme that the parents are going for in the baby's room, or anything like that, because it's just a really fun, easy wall decoration, and it's also really quick to make. Like, it literally took me like less than 20 minutes, and that's with filming it and like setting up and moving things around. So it's a really quick project, a really nice little gift, and yeah, just a cute little wall hanging that doesn't require any real skill in, like, you don't need to know how to weave, you don't need to know how to do like anything specific. You just need to be able to like loop yarn around a hoop. Anyway, next finished object, this actually I finished before Rhinebeck, so it's been a while since I podcasted, because my last podcast was before I went to Rhinebeck, and I was working on this sweater for Layla, which is now finished. Actually, like I said, I finished this before I left, and it was blocking when I left. So this is knit out of my Handspun. It is a sweater that I made up for Layla, and at some point in the future, when I have a little bit more free time, I will probably sit down and draft a pattern for this. I just don't have time to do that right at this moment. I have a few other designs that are taking priority, sweater patterns in general. So this will be something that will come somewhere down the line, I think. But I really like it. Added some buttons. These were some that I picked up at the knitting and stitching show that I went to in spring with my mum. I didn't have enough, so the last two buttons are slightly different, but Layla doesn't care. She has shiny red buttons, and that's all she cares about. The yarn is spun out of some fibre, obviously spun out of fibre, but the top section, this variegated colour, is the Poison Apple colourway from Grace of Babbles Travelling Yarns, and that's on her Corridale base. And this all like pinky red at the bottom is a fibre, superwash Polworth fibre from Almas of Witchcraftylady. And I have about 70 grams of this fibre left, this yarn left, and a little bit of this left as well. So probably enough that I can make her a matching hat, or mittens or something to go with it. So we'll see what she wants, and I will make her something to go with this. But yeah, it's a little bit big on her, which is fine, like, especially around the tops of the arms is a bit big. The whole yoke is a little bit big on her, but that's partly because the thickness of this yarn, the variegated yarn at the top is thicker than the Polworth, and with it being garter, it's slightly more bulky than the stockinette, so it just sits a little bit big on her, which is fine. Like, she'll grow into it, so it's good because it means she'll get to wear it for a couple of years before she outgrows it. and yeah, she really likes it. She's been wearing it a lot lately when we take her out, and it's really nice and warm, so it's great if it's not raining. This actually works really well as her like a coat, rather than needing to wear a jumper and then a coat on top. So this is quite a nice warm piece for her, which is really good for this transitional season. Okay, then the next thing I have that I finished, this is most of these finished objects are Rhinebeck trip projects. So just before I left for Rhinebeck, I cast on to knit this cowl, and it's a simple fisherman's rib cowl, which essentially looks like brioche, and that's the whole point of fisherman's rib. It looks a lot like brioche. And I'm teaching one of the classes I'm teaching at Vogue Knitting Live in January, which I believe did I tell you guys about that before in my last podcast? I think I must. Did I? I'm going to be teaching at Vogue Knitting Live in January in New York. I can't remember if I told you guys that or not, but I am, which is really exciting. And yeah, so one of the classes I'm teaching is a 2-colour fisherman's rib class, how to knit 2-colour fisherman rib. And so I wanted to design a couple of simple patterns to go through it to use for the class, and one of them is just this simple cowl. And so that's now done and finished. And the yarn I used for this, the multicolored yarn, was a gift from Melissa, who was the Spicy Homemaker. I'm not sure what her handle is now, but that is from Bohemia Fibres in the La Dolce Vita colorway. And then the grey was actually some yarn I picked up at my very first Rhinebeck. It is O-Wool and the O-Wash fingering, and it's in the schist colorway, which both of these yarns were fingering weight, but I just held them double to make like a DK for this cowl. And it's just a really simple loop cowl that you just pop on. There you go. Nice and simple, but it's a really good way to learn the 2-colour fisherman rib technique in the round, which is why I did this. And I knit most of this on the flight on the way to New York, and then finished it off the next morning once I was there. Then the next finished up projects I finished were these pair of socks. Not sure, they're going into my gift basket for Christmas. So that's these pair of socks. This was from a skein of Reggio Perfect, from a line by it with Arnie and Carlos, which obviously have like these Christmassy themes to it. And this is what I ended up with. Just really simple. My socks I knit on 2.25mm needles, typically Chagus or high hires. And if I'm doing them 2 at a time, it's on 40-inch circulars, and if I'm doing them concurrently on separate needles, then I use 32-inch circulars for those. Then the next project that I finished whilst in New York, and this was very much my Rhinebeck weekend project. I was knitting on this as we were headed to the train station, and then on the train there, whilst we were there, on the train back, I finished it. So on the train back to New York from Rhinebeck, I finished this cowl. And this is a cowl idea I had in mind for a while, and it uses the technique and the stitches from the Snowday shawl. This is the same transition pattern from the Snowday shawl, but in like a cowl form. And what you can't tell is that you cast on with a provisional cast on, you work all the way around, and then when you get back to the end, you Kitchener the ends closed. So I actually Kitchenered in this yellow, in the middle of this yellow section, which you can't see at all. You can kind of see from the wrong side, because I think I pulled my stitches a little bit too tight when I was doing it. So you can kind of see that line there. That's the line where I grafted the ends together. But I was doing this on the train on the way back after a long weekend at Rhinebeck. So I wasn't paying too much attention to how I was tensioning my stitches as I was Kitchenering. So you can either wear this as one big open loop, or it's just about long enough that I can double loop it, and it'll be nice and snug around the neck to be like tucked in under a coat. And this is actually knit out of my handspun, which is really exciting. And so this handspun came out to be about a DK worsted-ish weight. And yeah, so the pattern's going to be written up completely as a recipe, because it's very much you can use any weight of yarn, any needle size to knit this, and obviously how wide you knit it will depend, how wide you want it will depend on how many stitches you cast on, and how big your loop is will just depend on how much yarn you use. So I'll give a couple of examples. One is going to be like this DK worsted weight version, and then another one is my work in progress, which I'm doing in fingering weight, which I'll show you in a little bit. But yeah, I'm really happy with how this turned out. The fibre I used for this was from Spin Jones. It was her Muddle Rainbow set, and I spun this up early this year. It was like one of the first things I spun this year, I think, so it's quite early hand spun for me. I've now been spinning for pretty much exactly a year. I got my spinning wheel at the end of October last year, so it's been a year now that I've been spinning, which is really exciting. And it's amazing to see how far my spinning has come, because like I said, this was pretty early hand spun, like from January of this year, so fairly early compared to how I spin now. And yeah, it was just really exciting. And I used 5 out of the 6 colours from that set, because the last 2 colours were like, this was one of the last colours, and the next colour was very similar to this one, so I didn't think there was going to be a lot of contrast, so I left that one out. But yeah, so that's how that turned out. And I had 40 grams of each colour, roughly 44 grams ish of each colour, and I have very little to nothing left of any of them, because I did it as a recipe based on percentages. So I'm not sure what I'm going to call this one, this cowl, yet. Like I said, it's based on the Snowday pattern, so I'm thinking either Snowday Cowl or something along those lines. If you have any ideas on what I can call this, please let me know in the comments. I'm always open to suggestions for pattern names, because I am horrendous at naming my designs. And then the next finished object is a big one, and this is one that I was working on the plain back. I was already over halfway through with this when I left for New York. So when I left, I'd already started this section, and I'd already gotten up to the end of this green section in the middle here. And then on the plane back from New York, and in the few days after, I finished this last bit here at the end. And you're not really going to be able to get a good idea of this as a whole, just because of how big this shawl wrap has turned out to be. But it's kind of like an arrow, but it's an asymmetrical arrow, so it's shorter, it's narrower on one side than the other, and it starts out with a little section of green, which is the main contrast color in the middle, a little section of the green at the beginning, and then again, this is sort of recipe as well. This is written as a recipe. You have a chunk of your first color, and then it blends in using garter and stockinette stripes into the second color. A little garter section of that, and then it blends again with stockinette and garter to the next color. And then you have your chunk of your big contrast in the middle, and then it reverses that blending back to the other end, and at the other end you have the end of the arrow point. So this is the back end of the arrow, essentially, with a bit of green before you bind off. And it incorporates the same as the cowl that I showed you earlier, but it has what looks like a I-cord edge, but it's actually a faux I-cord edge, which I am really excited about, because typically with I-cord edges, depending on how you knit, they can be quite tight, whereas with this version there's none of that tightness. Like, you still have plenty of stretch in the fabric, which makes it great for something like a shawl or a wrap, where you don't want it to be too restricted. So yeah, this is currently with my tech editor. Actually, all of these patterns that I've just shown you are with my tech editor. So this one, other than this one still needs to be written up, but this one's going to be coming out soon, fingers crossed. So that's my tech editor. Once I get it back, and once I'm able to get photos taken. It's supposed to rain every day this week, so it's not likely to happen this week, but hopefully next week. I'm hoping to be able to get this out before Christmas. I used almost every scrap of every skein of yarn for this project, because it's based on a recipe. So the yarn I used is by Maya of the Woolbarn. She has the most beautifully tonal colorways, and she does amazing speckled yarns. But I spotted these yarns together at Fibre East, and I was like, these just look so beautiful together. And it's definitely a little bit outside of my usual comfort zone. I typically go for like really bright, bold colors, as you can see. But this was just a really muted, sort of earthy, autumnal sort of feeling set of yarns. Just really snug and cozy. It's a really long shawl, so it just, you know, wraps around twice. And tuck in those ends, and it's just so cozy and so warm, and it's on her MCN base, which I didn't realize at the time when I picked it up, but it's so cozy. And this is 4 skeins of her fingering MCN base. I can't remember what it's, I think it's like Cash Sock or something like that. and it's 350 meters in 100 grams, or 380, 90 yards, something like that. And the colors that I use, so the green is called Hunter, this dark brown is called Toffee, and then this lighter golden color is called Pecan, and then the gray here is called Walnut. I'm pretty sure I got the colors names in the right order. But yeah, and I used basically all of it. Out of the 4 skeins, I think in total with the scraps together I had just under 9 grams of yarn left over, so literally used every little bit. So I'm really happy with how that turned out. And yeah, it's a really warm snuggly shawl wrap thing, and it's really quite long. It's longer than my wingspan, and I'm almost like, I'm basically 5'10", so it's longer than that. Let's see, how far do we get? We get 1 arm length and a half of me. So this is like well over 6 foot long, 6, 7 and a bit foot, maybe even 8 foot long. Really, really long scarf, and it's just really nice. And you can even like double it over, like fold it in half and wear it as a scarf rather than as a shawl. So it's got a natural seam down the middle. You fold it in half, make it a little bit narrower, and wear it as a scarf if that's what you, if that's how you want to wear it. You just wear it as like a long scarf, or wrap it around however many times you want. It's just a really cozy thing to wear. Okay, so that's that pattern, or that finished object. And my last finished object, which is something I cast on once I finished this, and cast off a few days after because it was such a quick knit, was this one, this shawl. And this is another fisherman's rib, 2-color fisherman rib pattern, which I've designed for the class that I'm teaching. And so this is about working 2-color fisherman rib flat, and obviously this time we're also dealing with increases because it's a shawl. So it's a simple, very basic sort of triangular shawl shape. Starts with your first color in garter, and then you start transitioning. You do a 2-color fisherman rib, and then you change your background color. You finish with that last color, and then I did an I-cord bind off with my yellow. And because I was doing this as a recipe, I didn't quite realize how much yarn I was going to need for the bind off, and so I ended up having to finish the bind off with that cream color because I ran out that far from the end, and I wasn't about to rip all the way back to the yellow just to do a couple of repeats last. So in the pattern, when I've written it up, I've because I think I only had 5 grams left of the yellow for the end, I wrote that you want to make sure you have at least 10 grams left of the yellow at the end before you, so you have enough for that bind off, just to be safe. And yeah, again, a really simple pattern. I knit this out of Ramagarn, so the Norwegian yarn. I actually picked this up, I bought it while I was in Oslo, but I bought it from Isolde's shop in the UK because she was having a sale on this at the time. It's the Pecan yarn, so it's their DK weight. It's a superwash DK, and it comes in 50-gram little balls. And I used, the colours that I used were 328, 320 and 308. And I know 308 is the blue. I think 320 is the yellow and 328 is this white cream colour, but those could be the other way around. But I know for sure 308 was the blue. I just can't remember which way around the yellow and the cream were. It's 100 meters in 50 grams. It's 200 meters in 100 grams, and I used, again, pretty much every scrap of these yarns. I only had the tiniest balls of the cream and the blue left at the end, and none of the yellow because, like I said, I ran out. So I used every last scrap of it for this shawl, and it blocked out beautifully, beautiful and huge. And because it's DK weight, you don't actually have a whole lot. I had less than 300 stitches at the end, so you don't end up with like 1,000 stitches on your needles when you finish, because yeah, doesn't need it. And again, a really, really fun, quick pattern to whip up. So that one is actually with my tech editor as well at the moment. So lots of new patterns coming soon, lots of new accessory patterns. I've been doing lots of sweaters recently, so some nice accessories coming at you soon. In terms of works in progress, we have Another version of that cowl I was showing you with the Snowday pattern, this one. So this one is out of fingering weight yarn. It's a little bit it's narrower because I wanted to go for a different look. I'm gonna block it a bit wider than it's showing right now, but this is gonna loop around at least twice, if not a third time, because at the moment how far am I? I'm about halfway through, and it already loops around 1.5-ish times. So I'll probably get 2 comfortable loops, maybe 3 snug loops out of it at the end. And yeah, it's really fun to see how this looks knit up at a different gauge. And obviously with your different stitch counts, your sections will be different lengths, because once again, it's based on percentages. The good thing about it though, is once you've done the first transition section and the first full garter section, then you'll know how many repeats of each section you need to knit before you change colors or switch to the next section. So once you've done that first little bit, you then don't need your scales anymore, because you know how many repeats, how many garter ridges, how many repeats of this transition section you need to do in each of your colors. Especially if you're using a commercial yarn. If you're using handspun, you might want to keep weighing it, because some of my sections are shorter than others just because I was running out of yarn sooner, so bear that in mind. And it all will be in the pattern, all of this explanation. But yeah, so I wanted to do this as more of like a skinny cowl. So I cast on fewer stitches for this one, and obviously on smaller needles, so it looks much thinner. And the yarn I'm using for this is from Lambstring Yarns. It's on her Tralala sock base. It's 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, 4-ply fingering, 93 yards or 85 meters per 20 grams. And I picked up 6 mini skein set from Shana at Indie Untangled, which she kindly gave to me as yarn support. And yeah, straight on the needles. And I'm just in this next sort of garter section at the top here and working my way through. And this will be finished fairly soon. I only cast this on a couple of days ago, and it's my only knitting project at the moment, so I am just ploughing my way through that one, because again, it's one I'm hoping to get out sometime in the early new year. I think I do definitely want to get this one test knit, just because I want to see people using different weights of yarn and different like color combinations and stuff, because I think it'd be a really fun one. Yeah, so that's it for my works in progress at the moment. I have some stuff coming up that I wanted to quickly show you, a couple of swatches that I've done and the yarn quickly for those. So a couple of sweater quantities that I picked up at at Indie Untangled. Actually, I got both of these at Indie Untangled from the dyers, but I'd previously spoken with both of them about doing designs out of their yarn, and so we decided that I'd just pick them up when I was there, because it just makes sense. They don't have to ship it, and I'm going to be there anyway, so that's what we did. The first one was from Sam Lavender Loon. She was my lovely roommate or housemate at Rhinebeck, and I was also helping out at her booth, so she gave me 4 skeins of this beautiful bulky weight yarn. This is in her Seance colorway. This is beautiful bulky weight, and I've knit up a little swatch, and I'm not actually going to do any of these like cables that are on here. I think I'm going to go with the texture pattern rather than cables for this one. Not that the cables aren't nice, I think they are beautiful, and I think as an overall they would look really good in the finished garment that I have in mind for it, but I just think I want to go for something different. So this was just a good idea to get an idea of like gauge and swatch and see if I like this needle size, which for the design that I'm going with, I think I like this size of needle. I might even go down one size. I just need to do another swatch in the texture pattern that I want to do just to make sure. And I've trialed a couple of finishing options for the edges. I've got like a 1x1 rib on this side and just garter on the other, and I'm going to do the same again when I do the next swatch, just to see which version I prefer as like an edge finish for this garment. I'm not going to tell you what it is, because it, got to keep something a surprise. So like I said, this is in her Seance colorway, which is really beautiful, variegated sort of purpley colors, dark purples. And then the other one that I have swatched is out of yarn by Farm Quarters Fibres, and we agreed on these 2 blends. So this is on her Pushkoon base. I'm so sorry if I'm butchering the name, but it's on her Pecan base, which is a 100% American Rambouillet. And this is her Odang base, which is a blend of Surrey alpaca and silk. And so this is in her Paul Newman colorway, and this one is in her Sinopa, is that right? Yeah, Sinopa colorway. And I'll just show you her tag while we're here. Farmer's Daughter's Fibres. And yeah, it's 100% Montana and Wyoming Rambouillet. And yeah, so the idea being that I wanted to hold these together, and the I don't know if you've seen those yarns that have like the duotone, where, you know, it looks like it has one base color, but then it's kind of been like, has another color that kind of goes over it, like it's been glazed over with another color. And I really like that effect, and I think you can get a really good effect like that with like a mohair or Surrey alpaca, like lace weight against a thicker yarn. So I knit up this swatch, and I'm absolutely in love with how this looks in terms of the color and the fuzziness. It's just, when you hold it up against the original, you can see how the gray has muted down that purple and given it this kind of just fuzziness, and it's sort of like two-tone color effect, and it's given this beautiful halo. I'm not sure how well you can see that. And the thing is, like, this Rambouillet yarn, it's not scratchy, but it's not the softest. It's not like buttery soft merino. But when you pair it with this Surrey alpaca, it's just, it's substantial, but it's soft. And so it's just like a perfect blend together. I just really love them. I mean, this would be amazing in a cardigan or a sweater on its own, no question about it. But there's just something extra special about mixing the two together. And it's something I had an idea for a while, and I emailed Candace about it, and she liked the idea, so we're going with it. And I think I have a vague idea of what it's going to look like. I really like some of the textures in here, and I'm just finalizing some thoughts on what I'm going to do with this one. Again, I trialed out having a garter edge or a 1x1 ribbing edge, and I'm leaning more towards the garter edge with this one, just because of these stripes that I'm putting in there. I just think it flows better with this particular design idea that I have. So yeah, I'm excited about this one, and it should be on the needles, I don't want to say soon, but hopefully fairly soon. And I think this one's going to be a cardigan, which I'm excited about. Yeah, so that's it for works in progress and my finished objects and what I have been up to lately knitting wise since the last time I talked to you guys. It has been a while, really. Then what else have I got? Oh, acquisitions. So yes, I just went to Rhinebeck, and yes, I came back with an inordinate amount of yarn and fibre, and yes, I have no business in getting anything extra for my stash, but caveat, I got this before I went to Rhinebeck, but it arrived whilst I was at Rhinebeck, and I got it from a D-stash. Again, I think I spoke about it on the last podcast, but Inglenook Fibres is one of those dyers or fibre producers, artists, I'm not sure what you would call them, who are hard for me to get hold of, based here in the UK. Their updates sell out relatively quickly, and anyway, so I also found this on a D-stash from someone based in the UK. It's actually the same person that I bought the last lot of Inglenook Fiberworks stuff from, and it is just absolutely beautiful. And as soon as I saw this, I was like, of course I'm buying this, because it is like, I mean, are you surprised at all? Like, if I didn't buy this, it would have been a crime. Look how pretty that is. It is so beautiful. Yeah, so this had to come home with me, and this is one of their Batina braids. Yeah, Batina braids, 40% bleached yak, 50% mulberry silk, and 10% white BFL. It is the Pendragon colorway, and it's 4 ounces. And I didn't realize there was that much yak in this blend. So considering how much I paid for it, that's actually a really good price. It was a really good price for it, and especially because it was already in the UK. So yeah, this is definitely going to be like a prized braid of fibre that I will take my time to spin when I finally get around to spinning it. This might even be one that, like, I don't know, I don't know what I'm going to do with it, to be honest. It's so pretty and I don't want to do anything with it right now. I'm tempted just to frame it because it's so beautiful. And it's so soft, it's so silky, which it should be for 50% silk. It should be silky. But yeah, I'm really excited about this. I'm really happy I have it. Like I said, it's not one that's going to be jumping onto the wheel anytime soon. I want to have a specific idea for a project for it maybe, or what it wants to become before I start spinning this one. Like, this is definitely going to be an intentional spin when I finally get around to it. But like I said, that's one that I got before I went to Rhinebeck. So anyway, I'm now really not planning on purchasing anything until next year at this rate, because I'm actually going to end up with 3 advent calendars this year. I don't know how that happened. I did an advent calendar swap with my friend Sam from Lavender Loon when we were at Rhinebeck. We made each other advent calendars. And then I purchased an advent calendar from Bellevue Fibres in the UK. I love spinning her Rolags. It was one of the early fibres that I started playing around with. It was from her, and I fell in love with Rolags by spinning her Rolags, and I knew I wanted to try her advent calendar. And she's only done like 12 or 15 advent calendars this year because they're quite intensive for her. So I was really happy to be able to get one. And then I also randomly decided to actually purchase an Inglenook Fiberworks 12 Days of Christmas advent calendar, but I'm going to keep that one unopened and I'm just going to use it. That's going to be my Christmas present to myself. So I'm going to open that on Christmas Day, all 12 days together. I'm not going to open that as an advent calendar throughout the month of December. So that's my plan for that one. That definitely was a bit of a splurge, and like I said, that's basically my Christmas present to myself. And that's it in terms of fibre content and knitting content for this video. I'm going to do a quick little chat about what's been going on lately. We do have some knit alongs going on in the group. We have the sweater knit along, which will be finishing at the end of this month, and we have the spin and make along, which will also be ending at the end of this month as well, which is really exciting. I need to coordinate with Grace so we can figure out when we're going to do our prize draws together, and we're probably going to try, I would love to try and do another Instagram live together on that one. The person who won the Ramadan giveaway that I announced the winner for in the last episode still hasn't gotten in touch. So if you can go back and watch that episode and see if you've won, and then let me know. Otherwise, the next time I record a video or record a podcast, I'm going to draw a new winner for that. And if that person doesn't get in touch, then it's just going to go back into the prize pot for another prize somewhere down the line. I'm trying to remember now what else I wanted to tell you guys about. In terms of what's been going on, otherwise in general, life's just been going on as normal. Layla's doing pretty well. She's doing really good. She's speaking more and more each day. She's becoming so chatty now. It's actually really darn adorable talking with her and having proper little conversations. We've all been somewhat sick. If you watch the Rhinebeck vlogs, you'll have heard my voice was sounding horrendous. I sounded like I was dying the whole time, and like I was about to lose my voice at any moment. But I got sick, not the weekend that I left before I left Rhinebeck, but the weekend prior to that was when I got really sick. And then Perry and Layla got sick, and we all had a bit of a cough before I left. And then when I came back, we all still had this cough, and it's still, all 3 of us still have this cough. It is pretty nasty. And thankfully I don't feel bad. I don't feel I do feel a bit run down because I'm not sleeping particularly well, but I don't feel like I'm sick, if that makes sense. I just sound sick. I don't feel like I've got a cold or anything. And for the most part, Layla seems perfectly fine and her usual self, and Perry for the most part is okay as well. But he went to the doctor earlier this week because he really wasn't feeling great. And yeah, apparently there's some sort of really nasty virus going around which could hang around for up to 6 weeks. So I'm now week 5 of 6, so hopefully this cough is going to go away soon. It's just been miserable. I can't remember not having a cough now, which is really annoying. It's been around since the end of September, and I'm just about done. I am done with this cough, and just being really sick is not fun. Already sounding this sick is not fun. yeah, that's basically it really. There's not a whole lot else to update you guys on. Tomorrow Perry leaves for a few days for a work trip, and I think Layla's having a sleepover at her granny and grandpa's house tonight, and I'll pick her up tomorrow. My brother's due to come down tomorrow and hang out with us, and then what else is going on? I can't remember now. That's it really at the moment. We don't have a huge amount of plans for next week. It's supposed to rain all week, so we will see what we end up doing. That's it really. Perry's taken Layla out this morning for breakfast. They've gone to have a daddy-daughter date, especially since he's going to be away for the next few days. She has become super attached to him right now. Every time he leaves the house, she seems like absolutely terrified that he's not coming back for some reason. What was it? There was one day when he left really early in the morning and he wasn't going to get back until after she went to bed, and she was so upset about it that he wasn't going to be there in the evening and stuff. And then the next morning he went to get her up, and he went to get her from her room in the morning. She saw him and she was like, "Daddy, you're home, like you're here." It was so cute, but also like quite sad that she didn't think he was going to come back for some reason. Anyway, so these next few days are going to be interesting when he isn't home. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to next year, looking forward to January, going to Vogue Knitting Live. I'm working on my handouts and like finalizing my classes. I'm teaching 6 classes and so far 4 of them are sold out, so that's pretty exciting. My pattern hacking class and my level up your knitting class still have spaces left, so if you are coming and you would like to take part in either of those, make sure you go ahead and sign up. General class sales have gone up for sale now for the last couple of weeks, but my other 4 classes have all sold out, so which is amazing. Thank you so much to everyone who's signed up to be in one of these classes. I'm so excited to meet you guys, and yeah, I can't wait. I think that's it really. I can't think of anything else that I wanted to tell you guys. I have a spinning video coming out soon, and obviously a video on how I did that weaving, not weaving, the hanging, the wall hanging thing. Don't know what to call it really, but yeah, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll be back with part 2, which is the spinning content. If you're interested in that, then please make sure you check that out too. All right, take care, bye.